Can you hear me clear?
Yes.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, friends from the media. Welcome to this press conference organized by Civic Exchange and being joined by friends from the HKUST. Now, maybe I should very quickly explain a little bit about the proceedings of this press conference. We will provide you with some background about the whole research, the study, and then Professor Jimmy Fong, Alexis Lau, and also Dr. N.T. Lau from HKUST, they will explain a bit more about the measurement process and also some of the findings. And then after that, I will represent Civic Exchange to give you a bit more about policy recommendations that we've come up with based on the findings that we've got from the HKUST study, and try to really force the government to think harder and do something more effective into making our roadside much more cleaner in terms of the air that we're breathing. Now, before I go on, I'd like to express our gratitude to the Hong Kong Tramways Limited, because without their support, HKUST and their research team wouldn't be able to get their equipment onto a tram car to do the measurements. And from Civic Exchange point of view, we are also grateful to HKUST for sharing with Civic Exchange the data and some of the analyses so that we can come up with this report, which is basically a policy recommendation or policy paper. And for that, I have to thank ADM Capital Foundation for supporting Civic Exchange time and work on this policy paper. Okay. So once again, my name is Simon from Civic Exchange. I have Professor Jimmy Fong here next to me, and then Professor Alexis Lau and Dr. N.T. Lau. Now we'll try to do it quickly, the presentation in English, but after that there will be enough time for every one of you to ask questions, whether it's in English or in Cantonese. So please feel free to raise your hand if you have any questions. Okay. Now maybe I will just give you a short background about the whole project and idea, and then I will pass it on to Jimmy so that he can explain to you about the measurements. Now, back in, I think, early 2013, HKUST came up with this brilliant idea to try and do some measurements along some of the most seriously affected urban street canyons on Hong Kong Island. So the idea that they came up with is to, use tramway, which has regular routes along the northern shore of Hong Kong Island. It's fairly stable in terms of operation. And then they can do some measurements on a regular basis, year-round measurements, so that they can fill the information gap. When I talk about information gap, we all know that roadside air pollution is very important, serious in Hong Kong, and this is an important issue that we need to solve. But also we need data to understand a bit more about the pollution levels. Right now we rely on the government, the Environmental Protection Department, and their roadside monitoring station. When I talk about Hong Kong Island, then obviously we are talking about central roadside stations and also Causeway Bay roadside station. We rely on these two stations to collect data on a daily basis, actually on an hourly basis. And then, with the information, then universities and other research institutes can do a lot of research related to roadside air pollution problem. But then, if we can get more information, more data, from the site, from the streets, I think we will be able to do more. And that's why, we feel that, with this new mobile tram platform, we can actually collect more data and try to complement what EPD is trying to do right now. And this is why HKUST, together with Civic Exchange, approached Tramway back in 2013 and come up with this idea. And as I explained, with their generous support, and all the technical assistance, our HKUST managed to pull this off and then started to do the measurement in August 2013. So I think this is the background that I want to show you. Is all about trying to get more data, understand a bit more about the pollution level in those street canyons, and then with that try to find out better solutions. And now I will pass the mic to Jimmy and also the team from UST so they can explain a bit more about what they've done in terms of the measurements, what are the equipment they're using, and also, of course, very importantly, the key findings from the study. Jimmy.
Okay, everyone. Good morning. My name is Jimmy Fong. I'm from HKUST. So as Simon said, we have been doing measurements since August 2013. Up to now, we are still doing measurement with the support of the tramway. So basically what we have done is measure PM2.5. That's the only equipment we managed to place inside the tram without affecting the daily operations. Okay, and we have been doing basically, this is the inlet where we taking the air sample into our equipment, and our equipment is placed right underneath the seat, and we build a box so that it's not affected by the passengers. And this is the equipment which we place underneath the seat. It's called the dust trap. So basically, it's measure the PM2.5 every single second. Okay, so we have a very high samples measuring the data, and together we have a GPS placed at the tram station, so we know exactly where the location is, so that we can interpret the data later. So basically, we have been measuring it from 6 o'clock in the morning, as soon as the tram start to operate, until midnight when the tram set. Every single day of the week, okay, during normal operation hours. Okay, so I said that 6 to 12, and a couple of morning and evening peak, and that's the data we have been collected. Now, when we're measuring the data, one of the things we want to coordinate is the so-called the urban morphology of our city. Okay, we all know that Hong Kong has been taught about, we have a street canyon effect and so on. We build a lot of tall building blocking the air ventilation of our street. And so this is just give you an idea. This is the Kowloon Peninsula, the northern shore of the Hong Kong Island. The color is basically represent the building height. Okay, so from all the way along, from 0 all the way along is 120 meters. 120 meters, if you regard each floor is about 3 meters, 120 meters is about 40 floors. So as you can see, in particular, along our northern shore of Hong Kong Island, we have a lot of tall buildings, and they are blocking our lateral ventilation from the sea into our city to ventilate our air. So one of the things is we want to study is how does this urban morphology coordinate the concentration of PM2.5. Okay, so the parameter we use is a little bit technical, but basically we derive two parameters. One is so-called the planted area. So along the tram route, we set a box about 100 meters by 100 meters. Within this 100 meters, we calculate this parameter called planted area index. So basically, is for given area, how much building is on top, built on the floor. Okay, the bulkier the building, the higher the planted area index. Another parameter we're looking at is we call plant. Is the same thing. So this one is just give you a closer look. We're looking at each individual building from the planning department. We have all this information. From that, we can able to calculate this planted area index. So this is the number. Just give you an idea the reliability of our data, and the result we have presented. Although we have been doing measurement for the last 2 years, the result we have been presented for this particular press conference is just 1 year of data from March 2014 to February this year. And this is the number of days we have measurement. So basically, we are each month we have about 90% of the time is doing measurements. Okay, so this is the PM2.5 concentration map. Along the so the color represent the PM2.5 concentration from 30 microgram per cubic meter to 55 microgram per cubic meter. So as you can see, along this tram route, especially in the west side of Hong Kong Island, Causeway Bay and Central is a well-known is the trouble spot. But at the same time, if you look at the west along Forcery Road and a part of the North Point have some trouble spot too. Okay, and if you compare with now this is if you compare the air quality objective of the Hong Kong government, which is 35 microgram per cubic meter. So any color above yellow. And you can see these are the places in terms of the annual average is violating the AQO standard. Now, and then if I'm looking at the daily average standard, okay, the Hong Kong air quality objective, the daily standard, which is 75 microgram per cubic meter, based on our data, and then I ask, okay, how many days of a year they are actually violating the daily average standards, okay? And the color represent from day 0 to day 20, okay? So as you can see, yet again, in Causeway Bay, nearly the entire whole Central, they have days more than 10 to 15, some of them are as high as 20. The current air quality standard is they are not supposed to have more than 9 days a year. Okay, if they have more than 9 days a year, that means they are violating the environmental impact assessment. Okay. Now, this is the Hong Kong air quality objective. But if you look at the WHO standards, okay, if you're looking at, if we have a higher standard, this the standard is really supposed to be protecting our health, which is 25 microgram per cubic meters. Now with that, if you look at, okay, yet again, the color represent the number of days which violating this standard. If you're looking at that, the entire whole Hong Kong Island along the Tramway is violating that standard. The lowest, 80 days, even in the east side of Hong Kong Island, which is supposed to be more ventilated, less traffic, and so on, it still have 80 days. If you look at the whole entire from Causeway Bay all the way along to western of Hong Kong Island, close to more than 250, 200 days, more than half of the year, which is the air basically is not safe to breathe along our roadside. Now and then, so after we have the PM2.5 concentration data, and then we want to correlate how does the concentration related to our urban morphologies. So this, now this graph little bit explanation. I have two color scale. Well, I have one color scale here. Here from green to red represent the PM2.5 concentrations. As you can see along the route, you have a higher concentration along here, lower concentration here. And then I have the circle along the road. The circle is represent the planted area index. The smaller the index, that means is better ventilation. The bigger the circle, that means worse ventilation. Okay, so as you can see, the bigger the circle it is, the higher the concentration of PM2.5. Okay, so you can see this is smaller circle, they have lower concentration. This is along the race course, you can see the circle is very small. So the concentration will tend to be relatively low. When you have bigger the circle, the higher the concentration. This one is similar. This is another index we call frontal area index. It's similar to the index as I explained earlier. Basically, is you see it as you're looking at, if you're sitting here looking in front of it, how much blockage of building in front of you. Yet again, you can use that parameter to classify as the ventilation factors. And yet again, we have the similar conclusion. The circle represents the higher the circle, the less the ventilation. The color represents the concentration. And yet again, a similar correlation you can find. The higher the concentration, the bigger the circles. So you can see our urban morphology does have quite a bit of impact on our street level PM2.5 concentrations. Okay, with that, with all these findings, and we work with Civic Exchange, we come up with some policy recommendations. So with that, I pass the mic back to Simon.
Thank you, Jimmy. Well, maybe before I dive into the recommendation, I just want to ask if Alexis or NT has anything to add to the scientific findings. No, well, maybe when you have questions, then they can further explain some of the more technical issues related to the project. But in terms of policy recommendation, I think the thinking behind the whole thing is, okay, now we have some new science, some new data. We try to digest and understand what they're all about. And then with that, are they going to help us go into some new areas where we can work on? I mean, the government, not just universities or think tank, but actually the government. They are those who have to implement, effective policy to try to solve this problem. So we have some observations, and we feel that there are some areas that actually we are focused on in the years to come to try to solve the roadside air pollution problem more effectively. Now, one observation or one comment from Civic Exchange is really, if you look at roadside emission problem, I think everyone agrees that this is something that we need to solve very quickly, because this is compromising people's health on a daily basis. So there's no time for us to dwell on what we want to do and how much it's going to cost. I think it's a matter of really health and life and death. People will be affected. Some of them are more vulnerable to these pollutants, and they will be seriously affected. Okay, and there will be cost implications behind that. But when we think about what the government has been doing over the years, not to say that they have done nothing, over the last few years in particular, actually the government has been much more willing to spend money to try to clean up the roadside air pollution problem. But we feel that they focus too much on tailpipe solution, even up to this point. So they try to make sure that the vehicles become cleaner, without thinking about whether we should have that many vehicles on the road, what would be the impact on pedestrians, and without thinking about the ventilation in street canyons, and what are the planning measures that can be implemented to improve wind and ventilation, or even air pollution dispersion in the street canyon. So that's why we argue that the government should make it a policy priority, which is, which I put in bold type here. We try to say, okay, we will improve roadside air quality in Hong Kong as a whole, but we know these street canyons are actually the most affected area, and there will be a lot of health consequences. So should we be more focused on these street canyons and try to force the government to take it as a policy priority? Focus on these street canyons, try to do something. Unfortunately, the street canyons actually follows the tramway as well. So that's why, at the beginning of this study, we are able to work with tramway, which is a great thing, because with the measurement along the tramway, we get consistent and good data, and to reflect, how serious the situation has been. And that's why I think maybe the starting point is think about the entire tramway route and what we can do to make sure that this could become a very clean and healthy corridor for people to enjoy the time. Now, then we think about, okay, we want to do something, but should we set some targets or set some timeline? And in the past, the government's been talking about, okay, we have emission reduction targets. So we're going to reduce how many tons of PM or NOx from the road transport sector, for instance. But I think this is not good enough, because we are thinking about people's exposure, and the most direct connection between exposure would be pollutant concentration. And with this study, we know the PM2.5 concentration along a large stretch of the major corridor on Hong Kong Island. So we know how far away we are in terms of achieving much better standards in terms of concentration. So we suggested that the government should use some health-based guideline as basis to set air quality targets. Now, not emission reduction targets, but actually air quality targets. So instead of saying that, okay, now we're going to reduce emission by a certain percent in a few years' time, we want to say, okay, we are going to achieve this level of air quality along the street canyons, and that particular number could be 35 milligram per cubic meter. It could be 40. We can come up with that number reasonably, but then we need that number to drive us forward to achieve that higher air quality standards. Now, secondly, in terms of how to implement, even with the target, in the past, the government, they have been trying to, take away the polluting vehicles, for example, by, giving the owner subsidies, okay? Another way to do it is to, I block a certain area and then ask the bus companies to use cleaner vehicles. But still we have the vehicles, and still they're reducing pollutants, okay? So can we do something differently? Can we do something more innovative? Can we actually take away road transport from the street canyons if air quality is so bad and people are being affected on a daily basis? Now, of course, we're not trying to take away all the vehicles. We know vehicles owners, they will complain. But think about the priority. Should we protect public health, which everyone in this room will be affected? Or should we just think about, let's do it, let's do it business as usual. Try to do some piecemeal measures so that, everyone, will support the idea. But then it will take a long time to get to that point to see the improvement. So what we're trying to do, or what we're trying to say is, if we have opportunities, for example, we've got the West Island Line in the last couple of months, and we know road transport demand actually has dropped. And there are opportunities for us to rationalize bus route, rationalize other public transport. Can we take this opportunity to also give the pedestrian some road space? Can we widen the footpath? Can we actually restrict some of the high polluting vehicles from going into these areas now that we have got the space and the opportunities? Okay. Now, if I want to do the same thing in Causeway Bay, obviously a lot of people will complain. The drivers might complain, or the delivery people will complain, because we don't have a good excuse. At this point, we don't have that opportunity. But in the Western District, we have that opportunity right now in front of us. With WIL, there will be room to do traffic diversion, to widen the footpath, to give the streets or part of the streets back to people. Okay. So my second point, or our second recommendation, is make sure that we don't let these opportunities slip. This is very important. Otherwise, we will have to wait for another 10 or 20 years for the next opportunities to come along. Now, thirdly, and I'm sure in your mind, that's an idea that's been ingrained in that for a long time. When we talk about roadside air pollution, it must be DeVoe Road Central in Central District. It must be Wall Street in Causeway Bay. But actually, the finding shows us that it's beyond DeVoe Road Central. It's beyond Wall Street in Causeway Bay. Basically, all the way from Causeway Bay westward to Kennedy Town, including DeVoe Road West in Western District, including Queensway in Admiralty, including Hennessy Road in Wan Chai. They are all very polluted, and the PM2 concentration is unhealthy. Okay, so my third point is, whenever we try to do something to improve roadside air quality on Hong Kong Island, don't just focus on DeVoe Road Central or Causeway Bay. We need to have a much broader mindset. Actually, all along the tramway, we have to do something. Okay, so with the tram platform, we now are able to identify new hotspots. And I think this is one of the key findings from this research. And this is an important message to government. So they should broaden their discussion when they really want to clean up the street canyons. It's not just about Central and Causeway Bay. And by the way, why we talk a lot about Central and Causeway Bay? Because we have roadside stations there. Okay? And that's why we have the data. And that's why we all want to talk about it. Now, fourthly, related to urban morphology and PM2.5 concentration, Jimmy explained to us the correlation between tall buildings or dense building or dense urban development and poor ventilation, poor air pollutant dispersion, and that's why we have high concentration in those street canyons. So what we should do is we should ask the government to have a long-term strategy. whenever opportunity arises, say in new development sites or in redevelopment sites, we have a lot, nowadays. So we should also make sure that in those development sites or redevelopment sites, the government must put in something to make sure that air ventilation will be improved. There should be a wind corridor so that we can bring in natural wind. We can make sure that the street canyons can be, break down, so that even if there are, vehicles emitting pollution, the dispersion process will be facilitated. So that's our fourth point. And lastly, and I think this is also very related to this research, I explained to you why we focus on Devote Road Central and also Ewell Street in Central and Causeway Bay respectively, because we have the roadside monitoring station. Of course, one way to improve is to ask the government to build more roadside stations and maybe also some more general stations. But I think we know that it's quite expensive to have one. It takes time to get it on the ground. And in the interim, what can we do? And this research shows you what can be done. Okay, if we have some good ideas, work with some partners like the Tramway company, and then we can do our own measurement. Now, of course, we have to mind you, and definitely the scientists here will, and make sure that the data quality will be good. Otherwise, the government wouldn't accept those numbers. So calibration is important with the air quality monitoring system. They have to do a lot of calibration, and they have to make sure that the data will have good quality assurance and quality control. And with that, then, actually the universities with these research, they are adding new data to the discussion, which will expand the discussion, which will try to figure out the best way to solve the problem much sooner. And because we have been waiting for so long to try to get this problem solved, I think with this new system, new platform to do the measurement and to expand, as I explained here, the temporal and also the spatial coverage of all these roadside air quality data, this is only going to help the government to design their own control measures, and for us to really understand a bit more about the chemistry and also the problems that industry handles. So I think it brings us up to the end of the presentation. I think this is the last one.